let us begin. Welcome. I want to say thank you for taking the time to join on this workshop. And a big thank you to Thais Festival. I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly. That's my California pronunciation. Thais, all y'all. Okay, but I have been to the festival. I've been there in person now I can say 3 times. And this is the first time online as we're all adapting to this current climate. But it is still a climate where we can be very creative. And so I want to say thank you to the festival and all the organizers for making this happen today. As you are no doubt aware by now, this will be in English. And I'm always very impressed with the English as a second language skills of so many Europeans that I meet. But sometimes I forget that it is a second language or one of many that you speak. So I will do my best not to go too fast and to avoid industry speak or language like if I say a gig, most songwriters know what I mean, but not everyone knows what that means. So I will say a performance or a concert. I'll seek to be as clear as possible. If I am not clear, please use the chat to send a message saying I didn't understand what you were saying. And I've asked Magali Michaut, we're in the same room, so she can be following the chat. And if there's something that needs to be addressed right away, she'll let me know. In general, the format is going to be approximately 30 minutes of me as a talking head. Really, I am a talking head when it comes to this online. And hopefully clearly so that you're understanding me. And then we will take questions. I'll be taking questions. And then there'll be another 30-minute segment, questions at the end of that segment, and then another 30 minutes, questions at the end, and a more extended question and answer period. And that'll take us up to the end of the 2 hours. Okay? I see nods. Excellent. Okay. This is my first online workshop. I wasn't sure if I was going to say that because one of the things I coach performers and I say, don't apologize, don't make excuses. So I want to be clear. I'm not apologizing or making excuses. I'm excited about this. I was resistant. I can own that. And so I'm very excited about it because it opens up a lot of new possibilities for me. Okay, so the premise of the workshop, I'm going to be giving you, sharing my perspective, my opinion, which has changed over the years and will continue to change, I hope, as I grow and evolve. And I just want to say that while I may passionately, and often do passionately believe in the things I'm saying, I am not telling you that I am correct, and if you believe differently, you are not correct. I don't believe in big truth with a big T, absolutes. I believe in small t's. So we don't have to agree. It's lovely when people agree. It's also interesting when they don't agree. The idea is that I will offer you my perspective and a bit of my story and how my own approach to my own writing and others' songs has evolved over the years. And you take what you can use. At minimum, today, if you stay with us through the 2 hours, you will be able to take with you at least 2 specific tools that you can use to apply to your own writing. I want you to have something concrete that you can say, I learned that in that workshop, and I can use that in my work or in advancing my own understanding of songwriting. So that will be coming up in the second 30-minute segment. So the first 30 minutes is me giving you a little bit of my background, how I've arrived at the perspective that I have on songwriting. And then I'm going to lead into the main topic, the 3 C's, what I call the 3 C's of effective songwriting. So briefly, first, songwriting to me, when I first realized the need to sing a song that I don't even feel like I was writing it. I just felt like it was almost like it was bursting out of me, and I just needed this thing to happen. I had been writing poetry and things as a small child to express myself. And so my first song was very much about self-expression. It wasn't, I'm going to sit down and write a song. It was more like, oh my God, I have this huge ache for this girl. I was 14, so it was a big ache. Not to say that the aches are any smaller as you get older, really. But it was a big ache. And I wrote this song to hopefully communicate all this emotion, to let it out, really. Not even to communicate it, just to let it out. And it was a very powerful experience. And what I found for many songwriters that I talk to, especially when they're starting out, it's a very personal and intense emotional experience very often to write a song. Many people will describe it as therapeutic, or tears coming, or joy, laughter. There are a lot more sad songs than happy songs in the world. I've been asked why I think that's true. I think it's because when we're happy, we don't necessarily pick up our guitar or go to our keyboard and say, why am I so happy? I really need to figure this out and talk about it and sing about it. But when we're not happy, we tend to spend more time contemplating what happened, what went wrong. And so that this can often be the stimulus for a song. That intensity of experience, that first song experience, I still hope and that happens for me each time I'm writing. I'm still very invested emotionally in what I'm writing because it's a very cathartic process. It's a very emotional process if I'm connected to what I'm writing. And that's a wonderful thing. That's the excitement. That's the passion. That's the juice. That's the muse, the inspiration, the perspiration. The question is, however, when I had many of those first songs, I started writing when I was 14, I felt very strongly about those songs, and I knew exactly what I was saying. And when I got up the nerve to go out and play them for other people, they didn't seem to have the same experience of the song that I did. They didn't get the story I was trying to tell, or they weren't that interested in the melody, or they just weren't as connected to it. And I didn't really understand that back then because it was so clear and true to me. How could it not be clear and true to the people who were listening? I see some smiles, so maybe some of us have had this experience. That is because songwriting, especially initially, but I think even continues for me today, it's a very subjective process. Now that word subjective, I should have actually it'd be good to have a proper definition of it, but it means it's coming from me. I am the subject who's emoting and having this cathartic emotional experience. So I'm very anchored in this creation. People who are listening, unless it's your mom or your girlfriend or someone you wrote the song for, are objective. They are outside of that experience. So they don't have the same focus or the same filters when they're hearing it. And this is what I've realized as a songwriter, this is the big, big, big question. This is the critical inch. There are songs I write today I've been writing for 44 years. That's wild. There are songs still that I write today and I think, oh, that's for me. That's one for me. I'm not gonna try and make that clearer for a larger audience, or this was cathartic for me. This was a song about what I'm feeling right now, and it did its job. However, since I like having a career as a songwriter, and I like to go out and be paid for my performances, and I like to record and hopefully get songs on the radio and in film and TV and things like that, which I've had some good fortune with, that's a different consideration. If I take a song and say, I've just written this and I'm very satisfied, that's my personal expression. If I want to reach an audience, I need to at least think about what those people what they will perceive when they hear this. How will they hear this? So I'm asked to be objective about what is a intrinsically subjective experience. And what I've realized about most songwriters that I've met and worked with, and I've met and worked with thousands now, I can say over the years, most of us do not have a very good objective sense about our own work. It's pretty difficult. That's not a criticism. That's just, how can you be objective about yourself? You know, I mean, these are big philosophical questions, but songwriting can be pretty philosophical. So the question I offer to you as people who are attending this workshop, when you have a song that you think, yeah, I feel strongly about this song and I would like to take this out. I feel like the world needs to hear this song, or other people would get something from this song. You are putting a different framework around it to go from personal expression, which is the initial blah, 3 hours of singing the chorus over and over because it feels so good, to, okay, I've exhausted, I've done my emotional outlet, I've sort of written my first draft, if you will. And then for me, I need a little distance. I need a couple of weeks, just sort of, I don't listen to the song, I leave it alone. And then I come back to it and I listen to it. And I think, okay, if I wasn't me and I didn't already know this song and this story, would I be engaged with this or not? Would it communicate to me, and would it grab me in the way that it does? It's an imperfect process, but actually both the exercises I'm going to give to you in the second half hour of this workshop will speak to those very questions and helping you, if you use them, to become more objective about your own work. So those are the tools I'm going to offer up. So a little more on my premise. Songwriting to me is, I can use a lot of phrases and we don't have to agree, but for some people call it a sacred calling. It certainly feels like if there's such a thing as a soul, this is where it's coming from for me, or from my heart, or it's mysterious, it's bigger than me, it's bigger than, I love talking about it, and yet you could talk about it forever and there's still more. It's too big to be encapsulated in words. Limited by words for me. And so in that way, I'm very careful to be respectful of the gift. So my workshops, whether it's the retreats that I lead or the consultations or this workshop today, is not about dumbing down your work or how to write a hit song by making it simple. And I will tell you that writing a hit song is not simple. I have learned that was a prejudice I had to give up. But I am acknowledging that music, the calling to song, the calling to play an instrument, the calling to raise your voice in song, or to speak your truth in words and song, predates the business. There was no music business. It predates monetization of music before it had to do with money. It predates the consideration of career. Those who brought the songs to the tribe, at least in the Northern American tribes that I have done some studying of, or the Aboriginal people in Australia and others, they brought the songs, they were called song catchers. They were not called songwriters. So they were listening to the ancestors, listening to the spirits of the trees, listening to their dreams, listening to their soul, however they framed it in their mythology. And then they brought these songs forward. So, and I keep that framework around songwriting. Because if any of you has written a song, say for your loved one, whether it's a child or a mate or a parent, someone who's died, someone who's born, and you play that song for that person or that group, and they are brought to tears or joy, that is a perfect song. Who's to judge what is a good or a bad song? I don't use that language any longer. I did for many, many years, because it's dualistic language. It's a subjective process. If my partner writes a song for me and it moves me, then it has completed its task and it's a perfect song. However, if my partner who wrote that song says, hey, I'm thinking of putting this out for a radio single, we're going to have a different discussion about the song, because now we're going to move from the personal expression to the does it communicate? Will it reach other people? So that's that critical inch that I keep going back to. It's a choice every time. And I'm not saying it's better to make that choice. I'm just saying be conscious of it. If you talk about, I meet so many artists who talk about being so frustrated and they can't get on the radio if that's what they want, or they can't get bookings if that's what they want. And they know they're good. You know, we all have that passion. We know we have something to offer, and we do. We all do have something to offer. Very often, however, when I check the work, I realize that those artists, in my opinion, are still having a hard time being objective, and they're so inside of it, they can't see how to perhaps modify the work, not to take away the soul of it, not to change who they are, not to be false, but to take this gift that they're burning to offer and actually give it to people in a package that they can accept. So, and you're never going to make everyone happy. This is not about, again, dumbing it down or pleasing everyone. But there are different considerations when it comes to the marketplace. So if I think I've belabored that point a long time because it's a very important one to me. The marketplace is second. It is called the music business. So music's first. It's not the business of music. Thank God. Okay, so I already mentioned briefly my story that I started when I was 14, and I won't go into a lot of details, but I did record put out some albums in the 80s with my first band. You know, right out of high school, we thought we were amazing. I was certain I was brilliant, and the reviews were not kind, and the radio was not very. There wasn't really any radio for the first EP. But the second EP, we got a little bit of press, and we got a little bit of radio. However, it wasn't for many, many, many years before I started to ask that question of how would other people perceive this? I was so in the bubble of this is my passion, this is my art, and waiting for the world to discover me. And one of the things that changed that for me was I went to, for many years, I was the head of a national songwriting association based in Hollywood, California. I'm from California originally. And when I left that job, I got to meet and work with many of my musical heroes. I didn't meet any Beatles. I was close twice to meeting McCartney, which would have been a big one. But I met members of the Roger Daltrey from The Who, and Leonard Cohen, and Bob Dylan, and Stevie Wonder, and Joni Mitchell. I mean, it was, you know, it was like I was a kid in a candy store as far as a songwriter. And well, I learned a lot from talking to those people and about their passion, and their passion generally being about the next song they were going to write. And I thought, wow, I feel that way too, you know, like, but when I left that job, I went to work for an organization, an online organization called taxi.com, taxi, T-A-X-I, like calling a taxi in New York. And my job at Taxi, among several other people, was to listen to songs that songwriters had sent in. These were songwriters who'd sent songs in hoping they would be passed along to record labels or managers who had put a listing in this with this organization. And they would say, oh, you know, we're looking for a hit like, or songs a la, I remember this was the 90s, so it was like a la Shania Twain's latest hit, You Don't Impress Me Much, or, you know, okay. So, and in would come sometimes 1,000 entries. And I would sit there and listen to 6 to 8 songs per hour for 4 hours a day to decide whether they were at the level that this record label or this management or this film company wanted. It would have been really easy to say yes or no. Yes or no is easy, you know. Yeah, that works. No, that doesn't work. But we were required to give at least 2 specific points or suggestions to each writer as to how that song could possibly be improved. And I will tell you, and I've said this many times, I am so thankful for that job. It was the hardest mental work I have ever done. Because like most people, I listen to music to be moved, to be transported, to be touched. So to listen, and I love songwriters. I'm a songwriter. These are my people. So I'm there wanting to say yes to everything I hear. But what I'm hearing over and over, first of all, it's a country listing and people are sending in rap and rock and blues. And I'm thinking, okay, they really don't. They're so passionate about this song that they think when they hear this, it won't matter that it's not a country song. She's going to want to record it, you know. And I laugh because I felt exactly the same way. I'm not laughing at anyone other than my own being there. I still feel that way, don't you? I mean, every new song I'm writing, I think it's the best song I've ever heard, and it should be a world hit, and I can see everyone singing it like in a Coca-Cola commercial, you know? I mean, that's the infatuation that drives that first few moments or first few hours. That's a beautiful thing. Over time, those infatuations can't all evolve into, you know, lifelong loves. So, anyhow, what I noticed, and here we're getting to my first main point, and the workshop that I developed out of working there for several years, was I found myself making the same comments over and over and over hundreds and hundreds of songs for folk, for rock, for country, for Americana. It just kept coming. And I thought, wow, there are some really common things that a lot of us do. And a lot of us, me too. I was like, oh my God, the stuff I'm commenting on, I'm doing in my recordings. And maybe if I started thinking about it and changing my approach, I might have some more commercial success, because that is one of the goals I had. So this is where the concept of the 3 C's of effective songwriting came from, working at Taxi. And I'm going to walk you through the 3 C's in a simple way. The first one is contrast. So often I found myself saying, you might want to consider having greater contrast between your verse and your chorus. Now, what I meant was, and this is, you know, each song was different, and of course, contrast can be many things in production and everything else, but generally speaking, in the old days of folk music, you had melodies that basically went like a wave, like a low wave, just over simple, repetitive melodies, because for tribal people or for early people, there was often no written language, no literacy. And so this was how the tribe or the people told their stories. They were oral histories. You had a very simple melody, and it went like this. And it had a lot of details. The old Irish sea shanties are like that. A lot of the old Negro spirituals, what they called Negro spirituals in America, starting from Africa. Tribal people sharing their stories. Beautiful stuff. Not what we're talking about when we have a country listing or a modern rock listing. Modern music, I'm a visual person, and I like to use my hands. There might be a little Italian in my blood somewhere. I love to use my hands. So when I talk, so for me, popular music is like roller coasters. It's not this. This is a heartbeat, you know, that's like a heart monitor. Boom, 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 boom. You do that for a pop song, you're going to put your listener to sleep. So the roller coaster is what pop is short for popular music. We have about 100 years of that history since Irving Berlin, since the 20s, let's say, and forward, where not always, I don't believe in rules. I believe in tools, not rules. But generally, choruses went up. Song started, it built up, it got up to a peak, and then it kind of dropped back off and usually did the same thing again. And these were these formats. You had intro, verse, chorus. In the 70s, you had a long lead guitar, a sax solo or something, and then you came back and you maybe did another intro, verse, chorus, and the song was over. It's changed a little bit over the years, but we're going to be exploring that in the second half, the second segment of this workshop, structure. But what I found myself saying over and over was more contrast. Generally, it was melodic. So if you find as a songwriter that you have this melody that you really love, and after you've written, first I say don't be critical at all. I don't want to add to anyone's critical inner voice. Write your first draft, write your 7-minute opus, sing the chorus 100 times, knock yourself out, wring out every tear, and then make a recording and leave it for a while. Come back to it when you have a little bit of distance, listen to it. And if that melody that you were so in love with seems to be pretty similar in the verse and in the chorus, there's an opportunity to make a decision. Where is it strongest? If I'm so in love with this melody that I didn't really vary much away from it, then I have an opportunity to either apply it to the verse and now write a chorus that lifts, doesn't have to lift, but departs from that melody. Or if it's strongest as a chorus, as a hook, perhaps I want to keep it there and then I want to write a verse melody that has contrast. So that's my most basic description. And of course, this could apply to lyrics and production and all. So that's the first C, contrast. I don't know how many times I wrote that. And sometimes they got it. Sometimes the song came back and they'd rewritten it. And sometimes they just kept singing the same song because they had a lot of faith. but I don't know what happened to those songs. The second C is clarity. And now we're talking about lyric. And generally you could put lack of clarity or could be more clear. What I meant was you're telling a story. Clearly you know the story you're telling because you're the writer. And here's the challenge with this subjective and objective again. We know the story we're telling, especially if it's true. It's like, I've had so many writers say to me, oh, but this really happened. Let me explain what happened. We don't get to follow our songs around and explain what they mean. Maybe 20 years from now when VH1 does an interview with you or something. But right now, no, the song is on its own. So we need to think, again, if we want an audience to understand it, would they understand what I'm talking about if they didn't already know the story like I do? So if someone starts out a song and says, remember that time you and I were in our favorite place and you gave me that look you always had on your face, and I said that thing I always say to you, wasn't that a crazy day, with the sky so blue or something. Now I'm winging it, but I'm being extremely general. Now, I'm not saying that was okay. I mean, maybe that would be a funny setup for a song, and I could twist it into country song and make the chorus all about specific stuff and make the verses all general. There's a lot of ways to do it. I'm not saying you have to be poetic or use big imagery. It depends on the song. But that was so general. I knew the writer saw that place they used to go, knew that look on her face, knew that thing he always said or she always said, but I didn't get it. So I wasn't being invited into the story. And so I think Freud kind of nailed this. I know he's been discredited on a few things, and sometimes a cigar is only a cigar, but he made a point that people are mostly interested in their own story. And I think that's pretty much true. We can go deeper, but generally speaking, if a song isn't speaking to me, if it isn't helping me feel or see something that's familiar, I got no way to plug in. So I'm going to plug out. I'm going to change the channel or, hit the button. I remember, I don't know if this is true any longer. I like statistics, but I remember many years ago, they talked about what was the average amount of time a listener would hear a new song on the radio before they changed the dial. And it was 8 seconds, which 8 seconds is a long time. But if it's not, if it's not doing it for me, think how subjective it is. I'm in a good mood and I want to hear a happy, lighthearted song, and I hear this heavy dirge, bing. I mean, I'm not even going to be, I'll be a microsecond, bing. So this isn't, again, about pleasing everybody, but just taking your work, this often long or, full expression, and then thinking about it and how to tighten it. And that's what the exercises are going to be about, and how to make it more clear as well. So there's contrast. Clarity, pardon me, that was contrast and clarity. The third C, and it's a big mouthful of a word, but it's called cohesiveness. Now, the word's not important. It's the meaning that's important. Here's my simple explanation of that. Everything is in the song that needs to be in the song for people to get it. And there's nothing that doesn't need to be in the song. Here is where, as a singer-songwriter, I could sing that chorus 12 times at the end of the song and still want to have a slow fade on the record. But most people would be satisfied with 2, just 2, maybe a third at the end, if it's a sing-along. So this is where we move from that self-indulgent, and I don't think that's a negative word, self-expression, that sort of like, wow, you know, I just feel so good doing this. And we start to draw it down, edit it down to just the bare minimum of what's necessary to get across your point. It's always what's in service to the song, what I'm talking about. Not in service to the market or anything else. When I started to apply these 3 C's to my work, surprise, surprise, now that was, I started working for Taxi in '98. I started recording solo again that same year. Started applying these things. What happened was my songs, not all of them, but generally my songs got shorter. Whereas before my songs would average, I didn't even pay attention to how long they were. I just sang them until I was satisfied. So they were four minutes, or, you know, on average, maybe 4 minutes. I had some that were 5. I might even had a 6-minute. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's always an exception. Somebody says, what about Blowing in the Wind? What about, you know, Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah? Yes, there are exceptions. Most of us are not Bob Dylan or Leonard Cohen, so we're going to shoot for the safer zone. My songs came down to about under 4 minutes, certainly, have continued to become tighter, and again, shorter is not better, but I will say that personally, very excited. The album that got the Grammy nomination in 2018 had 12 songs, and the entire album was under 30 minutes. There wasn't a song that broke the 2.5-minute mark. And it was a little bit of a competition with myself to see how short I could make them. But they were complete songs. And so, you know, 2.5 minutes is not the goal, 3 minutes is not the goal, but cohesiveness is the goal. It just happened to work in that particular format. So what I experienced was, as my songs became more tight in the arrangements, more clear in the lyric, more contrasting melodically, I started to get more commercial success. I wasn't selling out. I wasn't putting less of my heart into it. I was just putting some smart, putting an S and an M on heart, and being a bit more strategic with how I packaged what I did. Okay. I'm certain I've gone over 30 minutes. I've gone 34 minutes. That's not bad. So it's Q&A time for any questions related to anything that I have spoken of yet. If you have general questions about songwriting, I'd ask that you keep those to the end, because we're going to have a full half hour for just anything, you know, ask me anything, half hour. So are there any questions regarding, I see chat. I'm going to click on chat. It says, everyone, how do I do this? Let's see. Okay, hello, everyone. There's a message from Magali. Do not hesitate to show your faces. Carolina says, I'm chewing my dinner. Thank you, Carolina. And Magali sent a smile. Okay, anyone with any specific questions, or shall we move on? I'm okay with moving on. I see smiles and I do not see chats. Okay, let's move on. Now we could talk about music all day, but let's hear some music. I'm going to apply the exercises to 2 songs today. I hope we have time for 2 songs. But before I say anything more about it, I'm going to introduce Magali Michaut, who is on screen. That's her over there. Okay, yeah. And I have asked her to play one of her songs, which I believe is a co-write from a listening room retreat with an Irish songwriter named Grania Hunt. And first, she's just going to play it, so you can just enjoy listening to it, and then we're going to use it for the first exercise. So, ladies and gentlemen, originally from Paris, now in Copenhagen, please welcome Magali Michaut. And I'm going to mute.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. Yes, okay, so this song is called Choices Are Mine. Oh, it's not here, sorry. I was prepared for another one. Here we go. Alarm goes off Monday morning. How different can this week be? I never expect surprises. Life has become so routine. Piccadilly Circus Station. The pace of life is never slow. I'm just another Sue here, alone in the flow. What happens next? Where do I go now? I feel it's time for a change. No, I want to make a move. Choices are mine for the making. Up to me which path I choose. In a novel, life's exciting. I have so many pages in me. If I could just be a writer, I'm sure I would be happy. What happens next? Where do I go now? I feel it's time for a change. No, I want to make a move. Choices are mine for the making. Up to me which path I choose. Oh, I need to let go of the fears that are holding me back. And I need to take control of things, get me out of this trap. I feel it's time for a change. No, I want to make a move. Choices are mine for the making. Up to me which path I choose. Choices are mine for the making. Up to me which path I choose.
All right, very nice. Now, we've heard a song, and now we're going to analyze this song. And this is a tool that I learned from a good friend, Tom Kimmel, fine songwriter, recorded by a whole bunch of people who I respect, from Johnny Cash to Sean Colvin and many others. And he's a lovely, lovely songwriter. And he learned this from his publisher. And back in the 70s in Nashville, when he had a record deal, and as he told the story, he moved to Nashville because the record didn't do as much as they'd hoped, and so he decided he was going to start selling his songs to other people. So he already had a record deal. I mean, he was considered a strong artist already and a strong writer. And he got a publishing deal, moved to Nashville, and there he would record demos and then they would pitch them. This is what's called pitching. This is where the publisher or the manager sends the songs to artists who are looking through their managers or record labels, and they hope that the song gets cut. A cut is when you get a song on a record or now on a CD. So he was there for a while and pitching these songs, and they were strong songs, and his publisher believed in him and he believed in his songs, and yet they were getting picked up, but they weren't getting recorded. It's a very competitive town. It's a competitive industry. I mean, if you're really in this for like trying to write hits for other people, it's a narrow needle to get through. But you can get through with a great song. I really believe in that. So, and the right context. And that's a big part of it as well. So he had the context, he had the way in, but it just wasn't making it over that last step. And some of his friends it was. And he's very committed guy. He's very committed to his craft and to learning and to improving. And so he went to his publisher and he told us this story in a workshop and said, I don't understand it. You signed me to a publishing deal. I know I'm a strong writer. My stuff's getting picked up, but it's not getting the final cut. What am I doing wrong? Or what can I do better? And his publisher said, here's something that I learned from somebody else. So here's this, pass the wisdom on here. So I'm going to pass on the story from Tom, from his publisher. He said, I want you to go out and buy, back then you would actually buy a single on vinyl. I know it's a long time ago now, but buy a song that is a hit, a worldwide hit right now, that you also think is a great song. And I want you to go home and I want you to put the needle down on the record. And I want you to take a piece of paper and like this, and just draw a horizontal line. It could be a vertical line, but in this case, he said horizontal line. And I want you, when you put that needle down, I want you to write down the first thing you hear and what happens. And then I want you to write down the next thing you hear and what happens, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Now, if any of you are like me and don't have any music theory background, I'm a self-taught, I don't read notes. So I'm not talking about music theory. I'm not talking about writing down complex chord changes and all of that. I'm saying, he said, the example he used and it was Billie Jean, because that was a big hit at the time. So, in the 90s with the Michael Jackson. And the first thing that happened was so it was a bass line. So he wrote down, it's a bass line and it's 4 bars. Okay. And then what happens next? And he worked his way, he mapped out the song. I call it song mapping. I forget if that's Tom's term or not. I want to credit him if it is. He wrote down every single thing that followed. Now, what would be the point of that? Well, what it does is it lets you see behind the curtain of the decisions that the songwriters made that went into that track. I mean, it's working for a lot of people. That was a worldwide hit, whether you're a Michael Jackson fan now or then or whatever else. Doesn't matter. I know it's not ever about pleasing everybody, but it gave him a chance to look at the editing and the little things that were working that you wouldn't notice when you heard it, because if they're working, you don't notice. That's the thing. It's like, have you ever gone to a film? I mean, when I go to a film and I see what I consider to be a great actor, or a great film, I should say, because it takes the film too, I'm usually transported. I forget that I'm watching the film. I'm inside the story. I've been invited in, like I talked about earlier with Lyric. And afterwards, I'll say, oh my God, that Meryl Streep's amazing. She played Margaret Thatcher. And I hated her. She was perfect. I hated this. I didn't like this character, this Margaret Thatcher. I forgot it was Meryl Streep because the acting was so strong. Well, so you don't notice unless the acting isn't so good. And you're looking at your friend going, this is not believable, or the storyline's not believable. And you're back in your seat in the movie theater, or, changing the channel on Netflix or however people are doing it these days. So it's a chance to look behind the curtain and see the edits. And what he noticed was, that hook that was 4 bars at the opening, they didn't use the 4 bars every time. Sometimes they only put in 2 bars. I didn't notice that. Little cuts and little cohesiveness, little things were cut away that you didn't notice, but it helped tighten the energy of that song. That movement of energy, because a song, among other things, is a movement of energy. It's a certain period of time that occurs that we fill with text and melody and rhythms. And if we're using energy and we're starting with a 0 point, like before they hear it, in the old days, put the needle down or press play now. And at the end, it stops. What are we doing with that energy, and how effectively are we managing the energy? Because it's energy, and then the listener is paying attention. And if the energy is kind of or the message is kind of, unclear, their attention is going to wander. And so these are terms and ways for me to understand it that were radically different than the way I wrote songs for the first 30 years, which was just, I wrote them because I felt them, and then I waited for the world to discover me as brilliant. That was the plan, but it wasn't working out. So I started looking at it in another way. And still enjoying myself. So now we're going to hear that song again from Magali, same song, because now you've heard it once, and that's fine. And if you want to play along at home, this is your chance. Not instrument, but take a piece of paper, draw a horizontal line, and or you can do it vertical if that's your thing, whatever. But the horizontal will make sense later. And just listen and write down what she does. Now I'm going to take my headphones off. I'm going to mute. I'm going to take my headphones off because I'm getting stereo of her, and it's kind of odd. So, but I'm also going to be doing this as we go along. We're not going to have everyone read out their notes because it would take too long, but it's mainly, I want you to have done this once, okay? And then what I suggest to you is the same thing that Tom's publisher suggested to him. Take 2 or 3 songs that you think, man, I wish I wrote that. That is a great song. And break it down and get behind the curtain and see all the little editing choices that they were doing that you probably didn't catch because they worked. And then here's the payoff. You start doing it with your own work. That's the payoff. I started doing this with my own work. I took those songs I'd just written and I left them for a couple weeks, brought them back. And what I found out was if I played an 8-bar intro, I automatically, habitually repeated it after the first chorus, after every chorus. I just did. It was just, I didn't even think about it. We all have our habits. We all have our chord progressions we like to use. We have our place we like to sing. We have all that stuff. That's fine. We have our toolkit. This is a way to widen your toolkit. And I started thinking, well, wait a minute. What if I cut that intro that I repeated in half? Sometimes, what if I took it completely away? So the songs got shorter and tighter, but they didn't lose anything. I wasn't taking away new or interesting stuff. I was taking away excess baggage that muddled and clouded the clarity of the energy of those 3 minutes or so that I was asking people to pay attention. Okay? So, Magali, if you would play it again, and some of us will be scribbling along at home, hopefully muted. I'm going to mute right now.
So you don't want me to stop in any place. I just play it normal.
You just play it straight through, just stop.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So here is the same song, hopefully. Alarm goes off Monday morning. How different can this week be? I never express surprises. Life has become so routine. Piccadilly Circus Station. The pace of life is never slow. I'm just another souvenir, pulled along in the flow. What happens next? Where do I go now? I feel it's time for a change. No, I want to make a move. Choices are mine for the making. Up to me which path I choose. In a novel, life's exciting. I have so many pages in me. If I could just be a writer, I'm sure I would be happy. What happens next? Where do I go now? I feel it's time for a change. No, I want to make a move. Choices are mine for the making. Up to me which path I choose. Oh, I need to let go of the fears that are holding me back, and I need to take control of things get me out of this trap. I feel it's time for a change. Though I want to make a move, choices are mine for the making. Up to me which path I choose. Choices are mine for the making. Up to me which path I choose.
Yes, very nice. Thank you again for being our musical guest. Okay, so for the making and the tail. Okay, so I was charting along, and again, sometimes in a workshop where we have a little more time, I'll ask everyone or those who want to volunteer to read what they have. But I'm going to do this now, and maybe it's a little different for you, but I was there when they worked on this song, so I know I was involved in this process, but I have never sat to break the song down. So this is what I heard. We have the intro, just the guitar. This is the setup. And it's an intro. Now, intro, just to be very rudimentary here, intro is short for introduction. And really, that's all an intro needs to do, introduce the song. So if it's not a hook, if it's a killer hook, that's something else. But if it's just basically a rhythm, it doesn't take long for people to figure out what you're doing. So in this case, it was am I correct? It was a single chord intro? No, you're doing the progression. You're going dun, 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 dun. That's right. So there's a melodic progression within the chorus. Yes, you're doubling it, right? It's double. So there's an intro and it's double. Okay. So it gives us a vibe, gives us a rhythm, gives us a sense of movement. Then there's a verse. And then there's a second verse. I heard it as two distinct verses. I think they were 4 lines each. I didn't write down the one. And then there was a pre-chorus lift, which is, I'm trying to remember your song out of context.
What happens next?
Yeah, what happens next? Where do I go now? It's a pretty classic pre-chorus. It's lifting up as if to say, and here comes the chorus. It even says, where do I go now? So, but it's a contrast to the verse. Now, not all songs have to have pre-choruses, but they are much more common now than they were, say, 20, 30 years ago. It's just, okay. Second thing that happened after that, or after the pre-chorus, it was quite short. What happens next? Where do I go now? Boom, chorus. I feel it's time for a change, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Coming out of that first chorus, straight into a third verse. No intro. Wasn't necessary. Might have been there in their first draft. I don't remember, But the thing is, that intro was just the chord progression and rhythm that they're working with throughout the song, so there's no need to restate it. So in this case, the only reason when I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to put something between my first chorus and my second verse section, generally I might put a couple of bars if my chorus was really complex. Like if I've given them a lot of information, I feel like they need to rest a little bit, sort of catch up. Because again, as the writer, I know everything I've already written. I've sung it a bunch of times. But for the person hearing it for the first time, they may need a second to kind of, take that all in before I launch them into yet another verse of information. This song, and it's subjective and it's song by song, but for me, I didn't feel I needed that because the chorus is simple, not a lot of words, and clear. I feel it's time for a change. I want to make a move. Choices are mine for the making. Up to me which path I choose. Da-da-da, da-da-da-da. So they're into the next verse. And there's a nice contrast also in the phrasing. This is another way of contrast. You have this more open, longer notes in the chorus, and you have more of a staccato or rhythmic Monday morning. It's a little more pop, 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 like this. So we've gone intro, double verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Now we have a verse. but it's not a double verse. It's a single verse, and to the pre-chorus and the chorus. And this is one of the most common edits that I've noticed occurring in popular music in about the last 20 years. That didn't happen nearly as much in my unscientific analysis, starting with like the 50s and 60s, early rock and roll. You had double verses, double verses, double verses, especially in folk music. You had triple verses because, again, more story oriented and less just, you know, they were longer songs. It's another ilk. So we have the verse, we have the pre-chorus. Now, it didn't feel like it rushed to me. It didn't feel, oh, hey, where's the second verse? You know, I need more information because I'm taking it in. You know, it's in bite-sized chunks. But had they had a double verse there, it wouldn't have ruined the song. You know, I mean, if it was an interesting lyric and all that, but it wasn't necessary. So I don't feel like I'm missing anything when it's not there, and I'm to the chorus sooner. And the first time the listener hears the chorus, it's brand new, right? None of us have heard it until we hear it for the first time. So it's new information. Wow. The second time you hear it, it's familiar. And that's a comfortable place for a listener. Maybe they're humming along sometimes, right? So if you get them there a little sooner, this word hook has a meaning. I think of it like a fish. Sorry if you're a vegan. I don't mean to be offending anyone's sensibilities, but the idea of hooking people, and you're sort of playing their attention on a line. Okay, so now we've gone up to the next chorus again. We did one verse, pre-chorus, of course, and then straight into a bridge. I think there was like a little, maybe 2 bars of guitar. Up to me which path I choose, oh, I need to. And there's a change of rhythm on the guitar. Very nice contrast. Especially when you're playing solo, you only got so much you can do, you know? So I do a lot of solo gigs. So this change of rhythm, it puts a whole new emphasis on that section. There's also, the melody lifts up. Now I was trying to make notes and listen at the same time. The highest note in the chorus is, for the making. And then the bridge starts out, oh, I need to. So it's not actually going higher than the chorus, but it is lifting higher than the chorus starts out. The chorus starts out, I think it's time for a change. The bridge, oh, I need to. So there is contrast between the sections. So you don't always have to be leaving behind all the notes you referenced in the other section, but at least the start isn't similar, so your ears don't think, oh, haven't I heard this already? You know. So we're into a new vibe, and what, for me, what an effective bridge does is break the attention of the listener. They've already heard everything twice now. They've heard, well, not the intro because she cut it, but they've heard the verse melody twice. They've heard the chorus melody twice. They've heard the pre-chorus twice. If she just went and did another verse and another chorus, it might be pleasant, but it would also be predictable at this point. You already have heard it twice. Now part of your brain is starting to go, I know what they're doing. I know what, you know, and it starts to wander. So instead, the bridge serves as a little palate cleanser, if you will, puts you into another zone, gives you some more information briefly, and then launches you, what happens after? Boom, right back into the chorus. One more time. And she doubles the chorus, the single chorus, and doubles the ending of it, wasn't it? Yeah, and doubled the tail of the chorus. Choices are mine for the making, up to me which path I choose. She doubled that at the end. Also happens to be the title, Choices Are Mine. So, smart. I don't know how long the song is, and that's secondary to the conversation, but it feels like a song that has everything it needs. There's no excess. There's no, oh yeah, I've heard this, I'm kind of tuning out here. You know, there's no, it's concise and it works well. And I've seen it work well with audiences. And it's lovely when there's a video online. If you go to my Brett Perkins YouTube channel and you look under list, I have a bunch of little playlists and listening room retreats. You can see the day they wrote it. And they recorded it on a laptop sitting up in the mountains in California at this beautiful site. And it's really lovely, their voices together. So thank you again for being a musical guinea pig. Stay tuned. Now, are there any questions on that process that we just walked through? Or did somebody have something radically different? No, I don't see any chat stuff popping up. Okay, Good. So now that's the song mapping that you can do with other songs, which I recommend doing. I mean, people say, wow, I went back to, I've had so many men and women, but more female songwriters still. I mean, I've heard this now teaching songwriting for 30 years. There was usually a 16 or 15 or 16-year-old female songwriter who says, Joni Mitchell is my, is my inspiration. And I think, wow, that's because she was so powerful. And they go back to a Joni Mitchell's Blue album or some of their favorite songs, and they map out what she did, and they, oh, I had no idea she was doing these edits, and it just, you can see the light bulb go off. Like, I could do this stuff with my songs. That's what I'm hoping you can not to be like others, but to just have the toolkit that they're using. I mean, why not? Shouldn't we avail ourselves of all the possibilities about being objective, about getting some distance? That's the real key behind this. So now we're going to do the second part of this, and we don't need Magali to play it because now we've heard the song twice. We're going to map what I call, well, I've been talking about energy and how energy, in the old days, the folk songs going like this, and then popular music, last 100 years, more of a roller coaster. So, and again, I often find myself referring to my friend Tom because he's just an eloquent speaker and a poet, and he has this wonderful Alabama accent. Sometimes I try and sound like him, and he just has a beautiful way of saying things. And he made a lot of great points when we worked together, but one of the others that really stuck with me was a new way of thinking of songs. He said, songs are a narrative art form. Like a book, like a poem, like a film, like a joke. You don't see it all at once. It unfolds line by line, scene by scene. This is why it's so important to be clear if you want to communicate clearly. Now, some lyricists don't, and that's cool too. Jose, I was going to say Feliciano, that's not who I was thinking of. Gonzalez answered in an interview, a songwriting interview, that he wrote purposely obscure lyrics so that people could find their own meaning. Seemed to work for him, I didn't understand what Björk was talking about, or Nirvana for that matter, when they first came out, but I loved it. The energy was there, so I got it. It's, music's beyond, it's almost a nonverbal communication, or it is as well. So, but me personally, I want people to get what I'm saying. I'm actually, I very much seek to communicate and connect. So we started talking about Tom's point about the most popular form of theater, of narrative art theater, is a 3-act play. It's one of the most lasting forms of theater. There are lovely 4-act plays, there are lovely 5-act plays, but generally songs are like a 3-act play, usually. And when I heard him say that, something pinged in me because I was using other language to say the same thing. I was talking about waves and waves of energy in the song, and where's the wave cutting off and then picking up again, and how many cycles of energy were the most effective in a song. And so we have this little, now this might not be so easy to see, but I have my little horizontal line with my notes. So if I wanted to map the cycles of energy in this song, I would start, of course, at the beginning. When it starts out, there's energy with the guitar. The voice comes in, the energy goes up. The pre-chorus literally lifts the melody up more. The chorus comes in. That's the peak moment musically so far. And then it drops off again, like a good roller coaster. You're gonna get to the top, and then you're gonna get to go, whee! If you go too long, people start freaking out, like, hey, whoa, how is this thing gonna, because we are all conditioned, I believe, we're conditioned by all the music we've heard throughout our lives. So whether, as much as I like to think of myself as a free thinker and I'm open to new ideas and all that, and I really work to do that, I know that I'm conditioned to expect certain things in popular music. So I can work against those, but I know they're there. So if the song doesn't get to the chorus for 2 minutes, my head's going, what? one of the reasons I have a great appreciation for jazz players. I have a couple good friends who are amazing jazz players, but I get exhausted after like 20 minutes. I can't keep track. There's so much, but when are you ever going to come back to the hook? That's not what they're doing. So my popular music brain is kind of on tilt, which probably I should listen to more of it. It would probably be therapeutic. But so whether we like it or not, it's out there. So your listeners have expectations of the song moving, not in a certain one way, but yeah, I mean, a song can start with a chorus, it can start with an intro, it can start with all kinds of stuff, but still, stuff needs to happen in a certain amount of time, or people are going to be like, I don't know where to go here. So, and again, we're talking about popular song form, not avant-garde, not free-form jazz, okay. So we had our first cycle. It ended after the chorus. Now we're into a second cycle, which is a slightly shorter cycle because it's a single verse. And that, you could say it ends at the chorus, or you could say that it extended to the bridge because the bridge was right out of that chorus and took it up even higher. But let's say that's one more cycle. And then you come out of that bridge and you're already pretty high in the energy and you finish off with a chorus with a double ending at the end. That's a 3-cycle song or a 3-act play. So to me, that works. When I would sit with my material and I would find out that I had 6 or 7 cycles, that was too much song. I was trying to put too much into one song, or I was too in love with singing the chorus too many times. I say that because my first solo album, I recorded a song called Staring at the Sun. And I think the original version, when I used to play it live, it was definitely at least 6 minutes. And I thought I was being professional by cutting it down to about 5:40 in the studio. And I brought it to some professional writer friends of mine in LA. And I said, what do you think? And my friend Eric Lowen said, there's a lot of staring at the suns in that song, because I sang that chorus so many times. So when we made the remix and did the album, I cut away like 40 more seconds and I still had doubled choruses, So it was just like, it was my big lesson on, have them wanting to hear it again, rather than you've overfed your guest, you've overserved. Okay, so the idea of the 3-act play is also, from a lyrical standpoint, a really good tool, because if you think about it, again, your listener does not know the story you're telling. So if you were to visualize your song like a 3-act play, your opening verse introduces your characters, or your character, the narrator, or, you're either saying, I feel this, or she, or he, or they, or, and then where's the drama? There's some kind of drama, generally. Romeo and Juliet, okay, 2 young lovers, they meet. There's there's frisson, okay. But the conflict is their families are in conflict. Okay, down comes the curtain. Now we're curious what's going to happen next. So we come to the second act. That's our second verse. That's generally where you get more backstory in a story song, like, well, when we were kids, or I'm hoping that one day we're going to be able, here we're going, here's how we're building things up. If you have a bridge, and I don't mean to make it sound so like cookie cutter, because I realize every song is completely different and they're not all like this, but this is the easy stuff, story song. So and the bridge generally has the overall statement, like, I'm going to stay, I'm going to leave, it's time for me now. And then you get back, and if there's a third verse, it's resolution. It's, well, it was time to say goodbye, or we're going to make it this time, or, whatever that final story is. And if it's really well done, the lyric in each verse, each time you hit the chorus, it has a different resonance. The chorus generally has the same words. But, this is what I really came to admire about country writing. And I was very dismissive. Being from LA, we sort of had this like hat music. We were the cool guys and they were the hat people. Great, writing a great song in a really effective song in any genre is no small task. And I have a lot of respect for pro writers in all genres now. And the ability to have a chorus have a different resonance each time you hear it because of the way you shape the lyric before it, that's really incredible. You can have a chorus that sounds like it's saying one thing at the front of the song, and by the end it's saying a completely different thing, and the words are the same. And I think, man, that's good lyric work. Lyric development is a longer road. People ask me, how do I improve my lyric writing? That's a lifelong, well, I think songwriting is a lifelong evolution. One of the wonderful things is you just keep evolving if you keep working with it. But if any of you listening are focused primarily on how to develop your lyrics, my best advice is to, again, study the other writers who are out there. When you're doing this song mapping, if you choose to do that, you could also, in a way, map their lyrics. I don't have an exercise for that, but really look at the way they build their structure. And then read heavily in good writers or acknowledged or accredited writers in the language you're writing in. By the way, I'm not an advocate of everyone writing in English. It just happens to be my native language. And in fact, I hear a lot of songs because I travel and I lived in Europe for the last 20 years. I hear a lot of songs in people's native tongue. And even though I don't know exactly what they're saying, I'm often moved and I have a sense of what the song is about, and it's a correct sense because there's something, when words and music and voice are matched, there's an intrinsic integrity to it and an authenticity that comes through. And so don't surrender your native tongue, on my account. I understand why people do it because the market is largely dominated right now by English, although give us 20 years and it might be Chinese. It's headed that way, so we'll see. Where are we on time? Okay. Oh my gosh, we're already at, I talk a lot, but I wanted to have Magali play one other song in her native language, which is French. And I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just going to have you hear it. Oh, it is correct. Is that correct? Yeah. With Daniel Osterholm from Sweden.
That's true.
I'm going to mute and take off my headphones so I have the full experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this thing is not working. C'est pas les cigognes dehors qui crient. C'est pas la vieille chaudière qui se remplit. C'est pas le gamin du dessus qui court sur le parquet. Y a du bruit, y a du bruit dans mon esprit. C'est pas le camion poubelle qui passe. C'est pas le radiateur qui trépasse. Les attaques viennent de partout et résonnent dans ma calebasse. Je veux du calme, je veux du silence, je veux du calme, marre du spam. Je veux des vacances. C'est pas le chat que les enfants pourchassent. C'est pas mon âme qui casse sa tasse. Mais je te jure que je suis pas folle. J'entends des voix, j'entends des voix qui jacassent. Je veux du calme, je veux du silence, du calme, marre du spam. Je veux des vacances. Je veux du calme. Je veux du silence. Je veux du calme, marre du spam. Je veux des vacances.
Okay. I had originally thought we would use that as a second song mapping exercise, but I don't, well, I don't know. Let's see if we have any questions we have. It's only 16 minutes past 5, so, or 6 in your time. Well, I don't know what time zone everybody's in. We have 44 minutes remaining. I don't see a bunch of questions coming up on the chat. Are there any general questions anyone has, or have I been so incredibly clear and concise that you've understood in this and taken everything in? No? I'm going to throw an idea over to you. Sorry?
Maybe we could ask questions to them, like how many songs they have.
You can tell me how I can do that?
You can talk and ask them to answer the chat.
Aha. Let's see. I am looking at, I only see 2 people. Only Gintara and Mikolos are willing to show their faces while we do this. Carolina has a nice photo up. And everyone else is just their name. They're hiding. Yes. Who knows? Oh, Jakob has a black screen, so at least he's here. Well, actually, I was going to suggest that perhaps we could do the duet and they could map that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Are you up for mapping one more song? It's not a short song either, I'll tell you that. I will take a longer song. I am going to step off of this computer, across the room over to Magali. You see, she's just over there. Whoop, you see? And we will do a duet that we would have performed live on the festival, but we'll use it as an exercise. I have not mapped the song, so it'll be interesting. I have a question. I see, oh, there's a question from August to everyone. 1 second here. Let's see, how do I open chat? Here we go. It says, about one song, American Pie by Don McLean, which is pretty long and quite a lot of Bye Bye Miss American Pies. How do you feel about that song? Because you talked about long songs and repetitive choruses. Cool question. I love that song. You know, again, there's no universal correct length, or certainly I don't believe so, and I also don't believe in rules, only tools. But I will also say that that song is from the 70s, an era that I'm very familiar with because I was born in '62. So I grew up singing that song. It encapsulates a certain time. It was also the heyday of the singer-songwriter. The 70s, you will find some of the longest songs that ended up on the radio. And I'm not saying they were worse or better. I mean, Stairway to Heaven, you know, still a perennial hit. Everyone learns to play guitar to it. So it works. In fact, I have an 11-year-old daughter who learned that song, heard it for the first time this last year, and came home singing it, and she loves it. And so it works. You know, if you have a song that's 7 minutes long, and at the end of the 7 minutes, everyone's still completely with you, hanging on what you're saying, singing along, then it works. That's it. Generally speaking, less is more. But that's just a very, very, very general statement. So. Good question. Oh, okay. And let's see. Good. Thanks. Thank you. It just works. Yeah. And, you know, we could, if I took a survey, and I'll do this sometimes in my workshops, I'll say, name your 10 favorite songs, you know, and it's so all over the map. Now, I've taught this 3 C's of songwriting. I was asked in Stockholm at the Royal Institute of Stockholm, the conservatory, if I would go in and work with not just songwriters. No, this was at Kulturama School in Stockholm. Not just the songwriting class, but since I was there, could I go in and work with the trip hop writers? And I thought, wow, I don't know if I've ever heard a trip hop song, but I'm game. Throw me in the room. Let's see. And I got up in front of all these, you know, like 19, 20-year-old trip hoppers. And I said to them, I don't know if my theories about songwriting will make sense or apply to what you're doing because I don't know your genre. Please play me something and then let's see if this works. And they played me some stuff and I started to map it. And then I started to tell them how I was, you know, looking at it, and we totally locked in because they're still dealing with hooks, they're still dealing with contrast, they're still dealing with energy and a certain amount of time. And even though there are different parameters on an extended dance mix or a trip hop mix or a death, I worked with death metal players, and I thought, okay, I have to surrender. This is not going to work. It worked. You're still dealing with hooks. You're still dealing with choruses. You're still dealing with energy. This is a universe. This is why music is a universal language. So, and that's the wonderful part of it. This is why a song can still travel around the world and be heard by people who don't perhaps even understand the words, and yet they still get the emotion. So, while anyone else is contemplating another question, I'll jump over to the other chair, or I'll bring a chair over and borrow your guitar since it's already plugged in, and we will do a song which I wrote in 2006 called "I Won't Give Up on Love." And you're welcome, Carolina. Thanks for stopping by. Carolina needs to run. She says, see you guys. Thanks all. Okay, bye-bye. Also, this is being videotaped by the festival, and I think they'll be replaying it on Facebook. But I hope that doesn't encourage you to leave right before we play our song. I'm going to mute now and head over to the microphone. Okay. Acoustic.
It's there.
Okay.
Right there.
Ah, we're there. Okay, then I need to come in closer to the mic so that we're at 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. Yeah, those guitar necks love a good capo. Okay, here we go. Heaven knows how I am here with you, and heaven knows where this is leading to. After all the heartache I've been through, I won't give up on love. Could have been the way you said hello. Could be something deeper, I don't know. Certain I don't want to see you go, so don't give up on love. Breathe and breathe me in. Bless me with your honesty, your gift
how it is. Will we share this waking mystery? Walk together, feeling found and free. Face the unhealed space in you and me, and not give up on love. I breathe and breathe you in. You bless me with your honesty, your gift for telling it like it is. Heaven knows how I am here with you. And heaven knows where this is leading to. After all the heartache we've been through, let's not give up on love. After all the heartache I've been through, I won't give up on love, on you. Thanks. I'll go back to my chair.
Thank you.
So, not a short song. I think it's under 5 minutes, but it's certainly in the 4:20 or 4:30 zone. And thank you, Alina. It is. I applied all my cutting, all my. I charted it, the whole thing, and yeah, I decided to step away. There's a. I don't recall. I think it's an anonymous. I don't think it's been accredited to anyone, but there's this concept or this quote that an artist, I think it might be Michelangelo, but anyway, an artist is, a work of art is never done. But there comes a point where the artist simply has to abandon the work. Like if you keep tweaking it, you're going to destroy something about it. So there comes a time where you say, I've done all that I can or all that I know to do at this time. And what I've learned with songs is there is no finishing point. If it feels like you've done all you can, step away from the song. But sometimes, for me, it can be 10 years later, I think, there's the adjective I was looking for. There's the line that would never quite sat right, and I got it. To me, it's like a puzzle that I'm working with. And that's the fascination. That's the kid in me going, ooh, I want to figure out the puzzle, So on so many levels, it's so satisfying, and I know it can be frustrating. It can feel like a burden sometimes. Certainly trying to figure out a career is a whole other conversation and a whole other workshop. Although there are ways to do that, and I do consult about career and about songs with songwriters online on video all the time. So I asked that the festival put my contact information in the description. I'm not sure if they did, but I will give you, whoever's listening, my email address if you want to, if you just want to be in touch or be added to my newsletter. I do a monthly newsletter with tips for songwriters and information about festivals and sometimes new artists I think are worth listening to. So you're welcome to send me your email at my email, which is Brett Perkins, and that's just my name as it's spelled, all small letters. And then the letters DK for Denmark, all one word, Brett Perkins, DK @gmail.com. So, and you can put me on, if you have a mailing list, you're welcome to put me on, Brett Perkins. There it is, it just showed up. Magali put it in the chat. Oh, she's so good about that. And Gintara also, thank you very much. Okay, so let's see, where are we in time? Well, you know, just like a good song, oh, there's that word good. I don't need it. Just like an effective song, I don't believe in belaboring things past the point where they're finished. So I don't want to, we should check in, maybe Magali can check in with our other host if there are no other questions, and maybe outline other songwriting workshop options now. That's from Vinter's iPhone. Maybe outline other songwriting workshop. The listening, yeah, I would say if Vinter, if I understand your question correctly, if you're interested in knowing where there are other songwriting workshops, Magali has just put up my retreat website, but also if you want specific information or recommendations on songwriting workshops in Europe, I'm always happy to recommend others, not just my own, because there are ones I'm sure have the right spirit, and there's some that I would steer you away from. So you're welcome to write me personally, again, at brettperkinsdk@gmail. It's in the chat. And I can answer that specific question when I know a little bit more about where you're looking. We do have a workshop tomorrow night, though, online here with the festival, and that is about career. And there are quite a few really well-established and active touring artists. So there's a possibility of learning more about workshops through them as well. Yes? Okay. Was there any other question, or no? For now, the chat box is empty. So I'll ask Magali Michaut to play us another one of her songs. Oh, the Florence workshop in spring. Yes, Vinters, yes, in March. As long as Corona is the deciding factor, but right now registration is open, and we're doing a workshop here in 2 weeks in Copenhagen. So, and again, online workshops. Okay, you go ahead. I'll be there by the time it's time for harmony. I will mute myself, yes. I think she likes it. I have a mute button. Okay, here we go.
It only works online, of course. Yes, we can play more songs. Yes. Here's one. It's called Partir loin, and it's going to be on my next album. Le carrelage glacé, les cheveux en pagaille, pyjama rayé, il faut que je m'en aille, en traînant les pieds, j'atteins la bouilloire, une tasse de café, chasse mes idées noires, tous les matins, la même histoire, quand le jour s'en vient, les rêves disent au revoir. Trop boulot, dodo, l'horizon reste clos. Je voudrais changer de refrain, toujours en vain. Le soir, le jour, la nuit, l'espoir toujours s'enfuit. M'échapper, prendre le train et partir loin. Un plateau repas devant la télé, écolo ou pas, vive le surgelé, habituel oubli, ma tasse de café, à moitié remplie, au fond de l'évier, la fatigue du soir envahit mes mains, le sens du devoir, je le remets à demain. Trop boulot, dodo, l'horizon reste clos. Je voudrais changer le refrain, toujours en vain. Le soir, le jour, la nuit, l'espoir toujours s'enfuit. M'échapper Merci.
I'm off. I'll play one.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you can.
So I think Brett will play another one. If you remember, can you play?
Yeah, I see the question about playing my first song I ever wrote, and that would be funny to learn it again. I don't know it right now, but I remember the title was "I Don't Want You," and it was for a girl that I, of course, wanted very much. I was trying to be ironic; it didn't work, and it was very sort of Beatley. It wasn't a bad first effort, actually. But just before we go, after I play this song, I'll go back over to my station, and I will put in a link. There's a website where I've been uploading songs from the last 40 years of recordings. I've been releasing recordings since 1980, and there's some raw stuff there. I was in a post-punk band in LA in the early 80s that played some pretty raw stuff that you might be surprised. So and some heavy rock too. So you'll find those recordings. It goes from present day down to 1980 in recordings. But for now, I'm going to play thinking about the workshop, I'm going to play a quite simple song as far as chord structure, which I often do a lot. I don't do a lot of elaborate chords. I tend to let the melody and the lyric take the main place. This is called All This and More. She Brings to Me. Those are the two titles. I haven't decided which. She lifts me up when I am down with the words, helps turn me around. The sweetest smile I've ever seen is in her eyes, golden gleam, and through our love I am redeemed. All this and more she brings to me. Deep in my soul, shadowed space, stories untold, a buried pain. As they unfold, she takes my hand and lets me know I'm still her man. And through our love, I am at peace. All this and more she brings to me. Until the morning comes, she's there to ease my sleep. And when the day is done, she shares her heart with me. She lifts me up when I am down with the words, helps turn me around. The sweetest smile I've ever seen is in her eyes, golden gleam. And through our love I am redeemed. All this and more she brings to me. And through our love I am at peace. All this and more she brings to me. All this and more she brings to me. All this and more she brings to me. Come out. I see what you were doing. You got, yes, my bubblehead. Yes. Woo, yee. It's a collectible. I'm the only one that has one. There we go. Oh, I can have. Oh, isn't that fun? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Because I see I did the wrong one. nwin.com/Perkins. The Pawn Shop Preachers, my country band. There we go. That's correct. That's the full link. There. That's where you can hear all the music from the 80s to now. All right, people. Thank you so much. And Gabrielis, thanks for your help with all this. I look forward to watching the video.